Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today we've got the privilege of driving the brand new 2023 Honda CR-V. This is an EX-L trim. The higher trims will be hybrids, but this is the top of the line for the petrol car. It is a 1.5 liter turbo, which we're becoming very familiar with in the Civic lineup and HR-V. And this all new CR-V starts to take all of the design cues for the new nomenclature, the new style of Honda that we've already seen in Civic and HR-V. So today we're going to get our very first driving impressions of the car, get a look around and see how it appears. But CR-V has definitely come a long way since its early beginnings, and now it's a very grown-up, mature vehicle. And the first thing you notice when you look at this hood is incredibly long. That's a lot of real estate, which I think is kind of entertaining just because I know what's underneath it. It's the little 1.5 liter. And this grille is starting to take some cues from Acura because that is a palm-sized emblem, and it does have mechanical shutters down here to let air in or not depending on the situation, which is kind of funky, and they're closed in the off position. It's sat on 235 section tires all around. We're gonna see how the road noise is in this because that's actually been my only issue with Honda lately is the road noise. So I'm hoping this is gonna be a little easier. In our giant hatch, they open up a ton of room, and I know they've redesigned this hatch, so now it's like one of the quietest, most refined hatches, so it doesn't make any whirring noises like you normally hear. Let's see if we can get a little taste of that. That is incredibly quiet. Actually, it's funny that they mentioned that in the press release because I thought, well, that's kind of silly, but now I'm like, oh, I do actually appreciate that. The style of the taillights, iconic, sort of like L design. It's no mistaking a CR-V when you see it on the road. And look at that, guys, a spare tire. That's the stuff. It is a donut, it's a 155, but it's pretty rare to find a spare tire in anything anymore. Everything just gives you those patch kits with the goo. And, you know, in most scenarios, that's not going to work if you actually busted a wheel. 60-40 split back here. We've got some charge ports and things, but yeah, pretty simple, pretty standard stuff. Let's take a look in the back seat. In the rear, loads of space back here, pretty nice. And the whole idea of this car, I think they've lengthened it and widened it a bit, so they want to have loads of legroom. I mean, that's set in my driving position. I'm about 5'10", and you know, I could practically fall asleep laying down in the back of this thing. Cup holders, and not, I appreciate this, not a floppy armrest. I don't like it when the armrests just flop down to the seat, so that actually is suspended properly. That's good stuff. We do have some HVAC vents back here, but I don't see any charge ports. But that's big because we did see in HR-V and Civic that we are not getting those rear HVAC controls, so at least we are getting them in this. Before we get up front, let's take a peek under the hood. I'm really digging the style here. This is so aggressive but sleek. When you look at it like this, there's actually just like this big gap. It's kind of funky with that headlight. I like that. Not panel gap, just a gap. All right, look at this, hood struts, premium stuff. And there's our very familiar 1.5 liter turbo. We know how it operates. In this spec, it's 190 horsepower, 179 pound-feet of torque, and a CVT transmission. Up front, we've got wireless charging for our phones, typical HVAC system. I don't think we need to really review any of that because we know it. Drive mode select, so econ, snow, and normal, but sport and low on the shifter. So we'll go ahead and just go normal. Parking brake, holding firm, good stuff. All right, off we go. This one also comes equipped with the brake hold, like pretty much every Honda at this point, which is great. So if you turn on the brake hold and I come to a complete stop, it's holding, engine start stop does its thing, and then when I get back on the pedal, starts back up, releases the brakes, takes away some of that anxiety. So not the quickest thing in the world, but enough poke to get you out of the hole. We'll get on the brakes a bit. Absolutely wonderful on the brakes, a bit of dive, but you know, you expect for somewhat comfortable vehicle, there's going to be some pitch and dive and body roll. Honda's CVTs, man, so I have a hard time with this because I'm not a CVT guy. I always prefer an automatic transmission to a CVT. Honda's really transitioned to CVTs, but as far as I'm concerned, Honda has some of the better tuned CVTs, and I think they do a pretty good job of keeping this car feeling appropriate, feeling like it's natural. It doesn't feel kind of as annoying as like some of the Subarus I've been driving recently, where it tries to keep the revs so low in those cars that not only are you having trouble getting into the power when you want it, I feel like sometimes those cars, they're like a little underdriven on the air conditioning side, and so it's like when you keep that car at like 1200 RPM all the time, definitely feels like it gets warm in the car because the AC isn't spinning fast enough. So far these seats are nice and comfortable, doing the job. I'd like to spend like a weekend with one of these to really understand, but the beautiful thing is that this is a modified version of the platform that they've kind of used on Civic and HRV. I mean, obviously this is quite a bit different. There's a lot of different parts and extensions to make the global platform fit for something like this, but the ethos of it is the same. It's still very good to drive. It's very rigid, and there's never any question of where the car is going. And I love the steering tuning in these new Hondas. I mean, it's amazing because you can get in all of these cars and you immediately feel at home because they've done such a good job carrying the style of the drive, the experience from car to car. Let's do a little 0 to 60 test here. I don't know if we'll even get to 60. This thing is not quick. Brake hold, engine start stop, 0 to 60 from 0 RPM. Not gonna get to 60 before we're disrespectful to these neighbors, so that's okay. But it gives you an idea of the power. It's not outrageous, it's not potent, but I don't think that's what you're expecting from your CRV. Only thing I feel like is when you get into the hybrid, right? I haven't driven that car, can't comment on the speed, but I know that the power is only about 200 horsepower, maybe a hair over. That feels a little lackluster compared to the Toyota, because you can get a Toyota hybrid, the RAV4 or the RAV4 Prime for that matter, with like 302 horsepower. That thing really boogies. But what I will say is I think this is a more natural car to drive. I think the driving experience in the CRV feels better. It feels more intuitive. I've been getting into cars like especially Subaru, where I feel like I'm chasing the steering. In a base Impreza, if you've ever like balanced a mop on, or a broom on the stick and tried to just keep it up, that's how I feel like driving in a straight line in a Subaru Impreza feels. It's like you're always just chasing it a little bit. Like there's this thing about it. Whereas Honda has done such a good job to make it such a relaxed experience. You point it where you want to go, it goes there. And then when you need to make minor corrections, it doesn't upset the vehicle. They really sent us on some well-paved roads, so I don't think I can give you a great impression of how it handles the bumps, but it is smooth, and it's not so smooth that I feel disconnected, which is a critical balance to make in a car like this, because if you make it too smooth, then it's creepy and you don't know where it's going and it feels like you're chasing it. All right, if we drop it into sport mode, it's going to bring those revs up just a bit more, make sure that turbo is ready or more ready to spool. So that's a bit of a 40 to 60 to give you an idea of what like passing would be like. You're going to have to plan ahead just a bit because we're not dealing with a lot of power. But again, this is like the family hauler. It's supposed to be reasonably efficient and easy to live with. And I'm sure that having a 1.5 liter turbo up front versus like a V6 or something like that keeps the weight way down in this thing. All right, let's do a little 60 to 0 brake test. No one behind us. 1, 2, 3. Tracks nice and straight. Brake hold and start stop. Kind of funny. Now, it's totally unfair of me to check are MPGs right now because I'm flooring it. I don't know what this is going to do for fuel economy. I'm sure those numbers will be posted, and I'll put it down below when this is out. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how it is to drive and how it feels on the road. What's great is that I feel like that increased track allows this car to be a little more agile. Like, I'd really love to chuck this around a bit and get a feel for how it's going to behave in a corner. Interior seems pretty quiet. I believe it's quieter than the Civic Si. That seems about right. I would like to get some highway time in it, but so far the road noise seems pretty appropriate for a vehicle of this nature. See how she gets into this corner. A little bit of brakes. See, that's the stuff, you know? I really dig Honda. I mean, I know that wasn't like outrageous or anything, but like, there's no drama. The suspension tuning on these Hondas are so good that you can really trust it to behave like a car. I know that sounds silly. Like, of course it behaves like a car, it's a car, but no, that's not always the case. Some cars, you've got to chase them. You always feel a little behind them. And Honda's designs lately and their suspension tuning has really put you in control of the vehicles. And it gives me a lot of confidence as a driver, but it also gives me confidence that, like, if I'm recommending this car to somebody, pretty much anybody can get in this car and not get mixed up. You know, even the RAV4, while I love the car, I think it's a great thing, and I think the RAV4 Prime is really practical, obviously, with its electric mode. I don't feel like the handling is quite there. Also, touch points on this, really nice. I'm loving the leather, the soft leather that Honda's putting on these vehicles. They make me feel very premium when I touch the right things. All the surfaces that I want to feel premium are premium on these cars. Scary clouds down that way. Road noise, 70. You know, this isn't the greatest road, but it's definitely there. That's one thing. I feel like Hondas have had a bit of road noise lately. That's like a thing I've noticed in my SI. I know most of the time you can change that in just a tire swap, but like, who's going to do that? You're not going to swap your tires when you buy a brand new car, especially a CRV. You know, you're buying what you're buying, you get what you get, you don't get upset. So I do wish it was just a hair quieter, but it's not bad. It's not intrusive to the point where you'd be disturbed by it, but I just think that, like, it does put you in a position where there could be quieter cars out there that maybe if you're doing those long drives up to the mountains or back, that's something that you might value. But again, I do think it is down to the tires for the most part. All right, let's jump down here. I love these brakes. Yeah, I'm digging the squat and dive in the car just because I do think that it does a pretty good job of, like, showing you the weight transfer of the car. And overall, I'm comfortable. This is like a nice place to sit. I feel like it's absorbing imperfections pretty well. Granted, these roads are almost too nice. I need to get this in New England. So when we get the press car back in New England, when I'm at home and I can really put it on some crummy roads, that's when we'll really get down to business and figure out what's what. Should we jump it? I don't think we're supposed to jump the CRV. Probably a bad idea. All right, guys, that is the new 2023 Honda CRV. First drive, first impressions. If you have driven anything new in the Honda lineup, especially Civic or HR-V, you will be getting what you expect, I believe, which is a good thing. I like the way Honda's handle lately. It's very exciting that you can get in these cars and they are still playful despite being family SUVs for the groceries, the kids, the dogs, all that stuff. I just think the driving dynamics in these cars are great, and like the sacrifice you may make versus a competitor is the powertrain, because these aren't very quick. So if you need the power, you want that torque, you know, I don't know what to tell you. Just you either make the sacrifice for the driving experience, or you know, you go find a lesser driving experience with more power. Depends what you're into. But so far, so good. And if you are someone who's been like a CRV loyalist and you've always had 1 or 2 or 3 in the family and you've been passing them down to your kids or whatever, this is going to probably live up to your expectations, if not supersede them in terms of the driving experience, because I just think this is a nice car to drive. You know, we're in a world now where, like, it used to be that you go to get your rental car at an airport and you just like dread getting the Altima, but like I think most cars are pretty good now, and I'd be very happy if you know, I went on vacation and ended up with a CRV for the week. Wide open, come on. I do wish it just got off the line that first like 10 feet just a little bit quicker, but we'll survive. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's dip her into sport mode. We're gonna go under a tunnel. You know, some things just must be done.